Kansas, the breadbasket of the nation. Traditional Midwest, flat farmland, and doing the same thing they've always done, right? Not so much. Down in the southeast corner, often escaping view, is a progressive evolution. Here, you'll find Pittsburgh. Born out of a hard-working and progressive mindset, the city's constant drive creates a unique forward-thinking spirit infused throughout our community. That spirit isn't manufactured or even recent. It's legit and deeply rooted. It's in how we live, how we work, and how we play. It's in our commitment to local business, to our schools, and to each other that make the city a place like no other. It's in our university. Yes, our university. Pittsburg State isn't an enclave that happens to be in our city limits. With deep ties to our businesses, a defining role in our culture, and loyal fans the world over, it lives in all of us. Once a gorilla, always a gorilla. It's in our businesses. Pittsburgh's commitment to help businesses succeed is baked into the city's DNA. Through a dedication to the economy, this city of self-starters has changed, grown, and shifted ahead of the times. It's in our people. This unusually committed and resilient group that has always thrived on diversity, absorbed in a single purpose: to make Pittsburgh the best place to put down roots, to raise a family, and to move the needle for Kansas. And yeah, we're doing it together. All of us working toward a common vision: to make Pittsburgh a place to grow, to share your idea, and together, build a future you never thought possible. Pittsburgh, forward together.
Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the State of the City Luncheon. My name is Sarah Rudnian, and I'm the Public Information Manager for the City of Pittsburgh, and I'll be serving as your MC for today. The video you just saw was created in collaboration with our friends at Limelight Marketing, and I think it really speaks to what makes Pittsburgh a great place to live, work, and play. They did a fabulous job really capturing some of the reasons that this community is special, and I think it tells our story very well. And it's a great way to kick off our event and the theme of today's message, which is Forward Together. Before we begin our program, I just want to take a couple minutes to make some introductions and special acknowledgments. I would first like to introduce members of the City Commission who've joined us today: Mayor Jeremy Johnson and City Commissioner Sarah Chenoweth. We also have Jeremy's wife, Megan Johnson, joining us, and we have Leah Posterick up here at the head table, who will be one of our speakers. I also want to acknowledge City Manager Darren Hall, Deputy City Manager Jay Wires, and our Director of Housing and Community Development, Becky Gray. I also want to take a moment and just acknowledge former mayors and commissioners who have served our community well in the past. Would all former mayors or commissioners please stand and be recognized? Thank you so much for your support. Next, I'd like to take a couple moments to recognize the individuals who helped make this event possible. Thank you so much to Len Shepard for providing our music. Give it up for Len. Thank you to Chatters for the delicious food and dessert. Thank you to Signet Coffee Roasters for the magic fuel that keeps us going. Thank you to the members of Pittsburgh State University ROTC. And we want to definitely thank our City of Pittsburgh IT department for helping us record the program today so that those who could not join us will also be able to hear the message. And I'd also like to thank our city volunteers, Memorial Auditorium staff members, and others who helped organize this wonderful event. I also want to take a moment to recognize the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce, who helped us promote this event and who have held this event in years past and done an awesome job. Thank you so much for all you do for our community. And last but certainly certainly not least, I want to thank our city employees. Without all of you, we would not have this event and we would have nothing to talk about. You make our city a better place to live every day, so thank you. Now I'd like to introduce members of the Pittsburg State University ROTC to lead our flag salute. And would you please stand as they come forward? Now would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please remain standing.
Carry colors. Out where it takes. Post the colors. Colors. Hold. Post. Trees and arms. Order, arms. Color guard, distance.
You can now be seated. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. She reminded me a couple minutes ago that I neglected to include her in our program, but that doesn't mean she's off the hook. When we were discussing the right person to help kick off this event, the mayor and I wanted to do something that we've never done before at the State of the City event. We wanted to have a citizen of Pittsburgh share their story and perspective. We wanted this person to be a volunteer and maybe a small business owner. And we thought it would be interesting to have a speaker who is not a native of Pittsburgh, but one who has chosen to make Pittsburgh their home. This person is all of those things and much more. She's the friendly face that serves your coffee in the morning, and if you're like me, in the afternoon as well. She's a community advocate. She's a former advisory board member and a current committee member with one of our city advisory boards. And she's a small business owner. And she's not from Pittsburgh, but she and her family have made this place their home. Please help me welcome Leah Posterick.
Thank you, Sarah. I knew it was going to be wrong to correct the program, but I thought maybe I could turn around and run out and no one would notice that I wasn't on the program. It didn't quite work. Thanks for the kind words, Sarah. I'd first like to introduce my husband, Dennis, over in the table over here. As together, we own Signet Coffee Roasters. We moved here from central Minnesota in 2009, and we opened our business in 2011. We felt that we were initially drawn to Pittsburgh, of course, because our eldest son moved here over 15 years ago. But every time we came to visit him, we just really felt like it should be home to us. We felt very comfortable here. Well, lo and behold, he now is married and has 4 kids, so we get to see our grandkids quite frequently, and we probably get to see them also if you ever come into the store. Our business is truly a family business. As our daughter is our marketing director, she handles the social media, website, and design, and everything in between. Truly everything in between. Our youngest handles all of the computer technology, and he also has become a master painter with our new building. He painted most all the walls himself. Our eldest handles our internet and phone issues and has become a wonderful carpenter, has built quite a few things in our store also. Our third son, we haven't convinced to move to Pittsburgh yet. We're still working on that, but lo and behold, he actually likes the cold weather in Minnesota. But if he does move, he will be there at Signet Coffee Roasters. We rented our storefront, we rented a storefront 6 years ago. Then we found the perfect building, or I should say Dennis found the perfect building. I wasn't quite convinced. Every time we closed our store in the evening, if it was nice enough out, we would walk Broadway and look at all of the buildings. And Dennis we would walk past this one and he'd say, what about this one? And I just said, let's keep walking. And then after a while, I would try to convince him to walk on the other side of Broadway so he wouldn't notice it as easily. But he had a vision, and he was also ready and willing to do all of the hard work to get the building that was in so much disrepair back in working condition. It was completely renovated from the sewer on up, and I should say Dennis did most of it. Of course, with many family and friends, we moved in almost 6 months ago. We have a wonderful store manager, Paula Harrison, that has kept us sane through all of it, because it really is a lot of work. Now Dennis, now that he got the main floor finished, he is now working on the second floor. It will be a 2-bedroom apartment that we'll be renting out for Airbnb, and we'll also be living in it when we're not renting it. We always joke with our customers that, we practically live at our business anyway, so it will be much easier to just go up the stairs and go home, because we're right there. So truly, then we can say downtown will be our home. And it's always felt like our home for quite a long time. Looking at the changes that have happened from the time that we opened our store 6.5 years ago until now, downtown is definitely a noticeable improvement, as everyone can attest. There are a lot less boarded up windows. There's a lot more really unique companies popping up all over, an ice cream and candy store, several event centers, art gallery, and there's also murals, and there's a few more in the planning stages, hopefully one on our building soon. So we really feel that, downtown has changed and been transformed from a once dreary downtown to a really inviting, vibrant community. And we're happy to say it is our community. When we first got started, we didn't know many people and felt like we were all alone as business owners. It didn't seem like other owners were connecting with each other, and understandably, everyone was busy running their own business. It is more than a full-time job. I had always hoped there was a way to start communication, but wasn't sure how, being we were new to the community ourselves. Previously, I worked for a large nonprofit foundation who did just that. They worked, and we had leadership trainings and helped revitalize small communities in our 14-county region. Well, lo and behold, about 5 years ago, Bonnie Corsini from Colonial Fox Foundation had the same idea as we did, only she knew a lot more people. So she came to us with the ideas of maybe getting some downtown business owners, property owners, merchants, just anyone who was interested in downtown to help revitalize and make some changes in downtown. So at that time, we were called the Downtown Group. That's about all we could come up with for a name. We met on a regular basis until 2016, when the city commissioners elected some of us to be on an advisory board. The Downtown Advisory Board is a review board representing the interests of downtown property owners, residents, and merchants in order to revitalize the downtown. The board formed 3 committees. Of those committees is the infrastructure, events, and marketing committees. Those committees are able to do a lot of real work in the committees. In the downtown, we meet on a regular basis, and then we bring it to the Downtown Advisory Board for them to make the final decision, and if need be, it then goes to the City Commission. We have a heart for this community and truly believe in helping out other local businesses any way we can. As I think everyone will agree, there are many new developments in the downtown area and hopefully many more to come. A wise customer once told me that if I didn't like the way things were going, it isn't the time to back away, it's the time to get involved. And wouldn't you know, he is a city commissioner, Patrick O'Brien, who couldn't be here today. So he did really tell me, you know, that is never a time to back away, and he can attest to that. So if you'd like to impact the downtown district, please consider volunteering on one of the committees. It takes some of your time, but it's worth it when you can visibly see the improvements. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leah. I think I can speak for everyone when I say that we're really glad that you're here and making a difference in our downtown community. Leah just pointed out that there are many opportunities to get involved with the city, and I think you'll find this is a common theme throughout the event. We owe much of our success to the community volunteers that get involved and make a difference. And if you're interested in becoming a part of one of our advisory boards, or starting your own volunteer group, there's information on the inside of your programs for how you can do that. I'd now like to invite the City Manager, Darren Hall, to give our introduction to the mayor.
On your behalf, I want to see how high this thing goes. You're one of the few guys, when they follow me, this thing actually has to go up. My wife couldn't be here today, so she told me to let her know what she was missing. So, thank you. And one more thing before I get started on how wonderful Jeremy is. You're going to hear a lot today about what Pittsburgh is doing right now and what Pittsburgh is going to be doing in the future. It just occurred to me, Pittsburgh's done a lot in the past. So anybody that's in this room, think about where this town has been, the great moments in the last 100 years. I think we're nearing a great moment right now. We're probably in a great moment, but we need to remember there's been a lot of great moments in Pittsburgh's past, and without them, we wouldn't have a chance to make another one today. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce the mayor, Jeremy Johnson. Most of you know him. He's quite a character. He's a very sharp guy. He was born and raised in Pittsburgh. Actually, I think he was born in Fort Scott, and they rushed him here so we could get the census stick left out. But we call him Pittsburgh all the way. He went to Pittsburgh High School. He attended Pitt State University, where I believe he graduated. He was probably the student body president like his father. I believe maybe the only father-son duo to hold that honor. He studied English literature. And then, of course, wanted to study English literature some more, because we all have that pride. He went to New York and really studied it. He got his master's degree. But fortunately, he came back. And since he's been back, he's starting to raise a wonderful family. His wife, Megan, is up here at the table. And I was hoping he would bring Milo, but Milo's not here. But if anybody's seen a picture of Milo or met him, he's a wonderful kid. So Jeremy's done a lot just in his personal life, but quite frankly, the things that he's doing, the vision he has, the passion he has for Pittsburgh is why we're here today. He's one of a group of 5 commissioners that really get it, and we appreciate all they do. So Jeremy started out with the Active Transportation Advisory Board. He volunteered just what Leah was talking about. He was on the Live Well Crawford County Board, another board. He's currently the co-chair of the Imagine Pittsburgh 2030 Vision Committee, which is a big deal. And, Joe Delaseg and some others can attest to the value of having that organization. He works for USD 250. He's the representative for the Jobs for America's Graduates program. I believe some of his students are actually here over in the corner, and he helps them make good decisions for during and after they graduate. So very important work he does during the day when he's not hanging out with us in the evenings. Jeremy brings a lot to the table. One of the things he does the best is he challenges us every day. Anytime we have a recommendation, Jeremy's there to ask what facts face it, what facts back it up, why we're doing it, how's it going to affect the community? And, you know, we have a very good staff at the city, but it's always nice to have those checkpoints and know that you're not just going to get rubber stamps and you're not going to get away with doing whatever you want. He's in his 4th year of a 4-year term. This is his first term as mayor. And if you can, just help me welcome Jeremy Johnson, Mayor of Pittsburgh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you, especially Darren, who it has been an absolute pleasure to work with the past 3+ years that I've served on the City Commission. I've said many times that Darren and the city staff make governing very easy because their professionalism and commitment to the public good, because of their professionalism and commitment to the public good. We appreciate that. My decision to go into public service is daily affirmed in working with you guys, so thank you so much for that. And of course I want to thank Leah Posteric for her words as well. She is what I like to think of as the model citizen of what we hope to strive for to bring here to Pittsburgh. So of course we want people to grow up here and want to stick around and get jobs. But if there are people who are not from the community originally, and they see enough value in it to want to be a part of it and invest in it financially and emotionally, then surely we have struck onto something enduring and we need to keep doing that. I'd also like to recognize my fellow city commissioners, Sarah Chester, who is up here with me, Don McNay, Chuck Hunsell, and Patrick O'Brien, who I work with to help make decisions about the direction of the community. So my students, some of whom are over there at that table here today, they heard about the food and they're like, oh, you're going to talk? Yeah, let's do that. And I get a class double score. So I often get questions from them about what exactly it is that the mayor does. Can you change the school schedule? Can you fire this person? Can you get better food in the cafeteria? Can you arrest somebody? The answer to all those questions is no, I cannot. But I often have to explain that in being mayor, I don't have some unlimited power, and even with the things I can do, I have to coordinate and come to consensus with 4 other individuals who have their own ideas about the way the community should be going. And that is how, as I tell them, democracy works, and that's how I believe that it should work. So thank you all for allowing me to take part in that process with you. It has been one of my life's great joys to participate in the life of the community in that way. Also, it would be negligent of me if I did not draw attention to the city's public information manager, Sarah Runyon, who has done a pretty spectacular job coordinating and making everything happen today. So if anything goes well today, if you're pleased with it, it is this young lady's responsibility. She's been working on this thing for like 3 months now and has been very stressed out most of that time, which is good because it means she's on top of things. She's been making sure that all of us stay on deadline, that we're turning things in, that we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. She's incredibly detail-oriented, and her great work should be on very apparent display here today. And so, as a matter of fact, this is the most well-attended State of the City that I have ever been to, and perhaps ever. Like, this is twice as many as we've had in recent years. That did not happen by accident. That is on purpose. There's a reason for that. And finally, I want to thank my wife, Megan, for all of her support while being in this position. I have found that it is very easy to thank somebody who's in a visible position for their work. So I get a lot of, oh, you're the mayor? Well, thank you for your work. Oh, thank you, young, cool mayor. Thank you, mayor who wears a denim jacket. You're doing a great job. And while I appreciate that, it also means that people who are working outside of the spotlight and are not on center stage oftentimes get ignored. But it is generally these same people who are out of view that are the most dedicated, the most hardworking, and the most prepared to step up and do the grunt work of making a community. Megan is exactly such a person. Every bit as dedicated to Pittsburgh as I am, every bit as willing to do the work of making Pittsburgh a better place for our family and for others. And that is one of many reasons that I'm married to her. She's pretty great. So, I have been a resident of Pittsburgh for almost my entire life. But what I have found is that it's only been very recently that Pittsburgh has started transforming into the kind of community that I and my family want to live in. So Megan and I had a conversation early on in our relationship about where we thought we wanted to end up. Do we move to a city where there are already the things that we want out of a community, the amenities that we're looking for, or do we stick around here in Pittsburgh and work on making that into such a place that we want to live in? So it quickly became apparent that Pittsburgh was the natural choice. And frankly, there is a great deal of that transformation began with the arrival of Mr. Darren Hall and many of the people that he has brought on board to the city staff, three of whom you will hear from here shortly about the awesome things that they are helping to make happen here in Pittsburgh. And it is, so I believe that in the work that they've been doing, and I don't think this is at all hyperbolic, that it is because of this work that Pittsburgh is becoming a truly great place, the type of place that people aspire to live and want to move to and a community that people want to be in. But having forward-thinking city staff does not necessarily make a progressive city. It takes a great deal more than that. Foremost among those things, it takes community support. So what exactly does that look like? What does it mean to have a supportive community? Figure out the click. Oh, I have it. Aha. I was in IT for 5 years and it took me that long to figure out how to use a button. So one of the things that it means is having an engaged community. It means having a robust ecosystem of volunteer groups who are involved with the issues facing the community and who are actively working to move things in a better direction. It means having people who are dedicated to fostering the arts. It means having businesses and entrepreneurs who are dedicated to growing their enterprises for the good of the community. It means having people who engage with local government and decision-making to help move the community in a positive direction. And it means having people who want to live in the community, who want to see it improve, and who are invested in it for the long term. So, foremost among those, absolutely we need to be invested long-term in the community, and I am speaking from personal experience on this point, are young people. Now, I don't mean to toot my own horn with this picture. However, I do want to point out that when a bunch of young people show up to listen to somebody talk about local politics, you might be onto something. All right? Also, if you're looking to engage young people, involve food. Serve food. Young people will show up. That's how that happens. Again, let me reference my students as an example of this. So when your most engaged cohort is made up of people who are approaching retirement, your community is not looking into the future. It is looking into the past. But when young people are engaged, they don't have some rosy past where the taxes were lower to look to for inspiration. They only have the problems they face, and the thinking, and the willpower, and ideals to try to solve those problems. For evidence of that, look no further than the Pittsburgh area young professionals, who essentially single-handedly put the lack of adequate child care on the policy agenda for the city. You know how they did that? Because they are the ones that have to deal with the consequences of lacking access to child care. They are the ones having to stay home instead of being able to work to support their families. And this is far from the only area that young people are touched by, as they can attest to, myself included. But when young people are engaged, their needs get addressed, and that means, by definition, being progressive and looking into the future. So what I'd like to do then is lay out a vision of Pittsburgh, one that acknowledges what we are doing now, but also points to where we're going. So probably the easiest way to do that is to talk about the thing that pretty much everyone, myself included, is looking to most on Pittsburgh horizon, and that is Block 22. It is, without a doubt, the thing that I have been proudest of supporting as a commissioner, though I cannot claim sole credit for it. There are so many people involved along the way that helped make this thing a reality that it would be way out of line for me to claim it as my own. Realistically, though, I can claim to have voted twice to invest $1.8 million in this nearly $20 million project in the heart of downtown, which is really an investment in the potential that it brings to the community. In creating it, we as a community have set in motion one of the greatest drivers of possibility going forward that Pittsburgh has ever seen. So let me explain. Block 22, which is the renovation of the 4 historic buildings on the corner of 4th and Broadway, will put 100 college students literally into the heart of downtown Pittsburgh. And with them will come their college-age disposable income. So, just as we've seen in the area near the university, it is very likely to explode with businesses explicitly targeting young people. Which is why there are 2 restaurants slated to open in the bottom floor of Block 22, being revealed tomorrow, as I understand it. They're going to have their clientele literally living upstairs from them. But of course, the rest of the community is also going to want to go there, and those businesses are going to attract people to the community who want a lively downtown district, and that will increase demand for housing in and near that district, which will foster further development. And then there's the community space being built downstairs, which will include community meeting rooms, which encourage community groups to meet in the middle of town, as well as the maker spaces, which will foster the community of budding entrepreneurs living upstairs from them. And we'll put them in proximity of other businesses, as well as potential space for their own future businesses. And then they'll have the support of PSU Center for Innovation and Business Development, which will have offices in the building. But perhaps the best part are the effects. The effects are not limited to the buildings being renovated. Block 22 creates a natural corridor between downtown and the university, a corridor that has recently seen more movement out of it than in. Because those college students aren't just going to come to live in downtown and stay there. They are going to need to get to the university, which is a mile to the south. And they're going to have to travel that corridor a whole lot. So it is very likely that we will see development happen here as well, again with businesses targeting young people. And it will see amenities catering to those young people, things like bike lanes and outdoor seating and renewable energy and dog parks, which we just got our first one of, by the way. However, we are a large community, and we can probably support more than 1 dog park, so let's get on that. And there will be a built-in demographic then who could benefit from a public transportation route along that exact same mile corridor, so it creates opportunities for building public transportation infrastructure. Just as an example, did you know that underneath Broadway there are trolley rails? So, what is it then that stops the city from developing these into a robust public transportation and tourist attraction in the process? When you have a core population who is going to use it, the answer is very little. And naturally this will carry over into other parts of town, namely the Mid-City Renaissance area, which is only a few blocks away, and which will be ready for development in the next few years. Developers with any foresight, who we have already started the process of courting, will jump on the opportunity to help shape the area so close to so much energy and innovation. And all of the things the community identified as being essential to the Mid-City Renaissance, many of which are also features of Block 22, will be there in the plan the city developed to help guide the process. Now I understand that much of this sounds very utopian, a very pie-in-the-sky rambling sort of thing coming from some millennial, which is maybe a bit of a pejorative term, though I'm trying to bring it back. But it is intended to be exactly that. Because in order to move into the future, to keep Pittsburgh from doing exactly what every other small town in the region has been doing and evaporating while hemorrhaging people headed to bigger cities with more opportunities, amenities, and better quality of life, we need to be forward-thinking, unabashedly progressive, and at the forefront of innovation. We need to inspire people to want to be here and to work toward this vision, because that is the only thing that will make a community great. It does not happen on accident. It happens because there are people who want to live here and they want it to happen and are working to make it happen. So what you're going to see in the speakers that are going to follow is that we have taken some serious strides in that better direction. And none of this is attributable to a single person. All of the good things that you're going to hear about shortly are the results of a community effort to improve Pittsburgh. So, to start that off, I would like to introduce one of the individuals of the city that helps make some of those great things happen, who I have long admired for his dedication, thoughtfulness, and intelligence, Deputy City Manager Jay Byers.
obviously difficult to follow Jeremy and his passionate vision for Pittsburgh. I'm going to I'll try to do that, right? But we do see your inspiring words as kind of reminding us why we do this crazy city stuff, and we're going to continue to do it for you. It is a pleasure to work with you and the City Commission as we work through the stuff we have to deal with that's in front of us on a daily basis. So we appreciate you as well. Thanks. When I first got to Pittsburgh, we had some discussions internally about the state of the city, just the physical appearance of the city, and so we do what Darren tends to do, is bring people to the table and try to talk to people about what can you do to improve the look of the buildings and the general appearance of the community. And we had business leaders there, landowners there, and while we were there, one of the landowners, one of the business people, stood up and said, "Your phone's down. Your phone's down." No, said, Jay, when you come to Pittsburgh, you have to lower your expectations, right? And that kind of shocked me. I didn't quite know what to say to that, other than no, you don't have to lower your expectations, and we're not going to, right? Well, there's been a lot of changes since then, and I'm going to go through some of those very quickly here today with you. So let's. I've been asked officially to talk about. Let's see if I can make it work. Economic development. All right.
He's been in IT
Yes,
longer than I have.
I'm getting it. I've been asked to talk about economic development today, and that term has become so expansive. It's very difficult to identify what isn't economic development. Right? But I wanted to focus on a few things. I wanted to focus on what does it look like? What does economic development look like? And what does it mean to the people within those communities? And then I'm going to talk very, very briefly about what economic development feels like. So first of all, what does it look like? I'm going to show some examples of things that have happened in the last 5 years. All right? Now there's many. I'm going to show in various categories to kind of show that economic development has been happening in Pittsburgh across the economy. Now, these are by no means all of the things that have happened in Pittsburgh. These are just some selected ones that we picked out as kind of having a high profile. There's a whole bunch of others that have gone on a much smaller scale from across the board in our economy. But just to get a sense, and I'm going to go through this real quickly, so I'm going to take a deep breath and we'll go through it real fast. Right? In education, we've had the Overland Student Center. And by the way, look at some of these numbers. Right? These are real numbers here. 13 million, Career and Technical Education Center. We've got some on-campus housing at PSU and 2 apartments, The Edge and Summerfield. We've got in transportation, we've got intersection improvements, street maintenance program that the voters voted on to double the size of our street maintenance program. We've done a lot of work out at the airport, and we've got a lot of infrastructure improvements. We put $10 million, not we, the community has, invested $10 million in fiber infrastructure in Pittsburgh over the last 5 years. We've done increases to the sewer and water lines. By the way, Pittsburgh is a manufacturing town, all right? And our industry is clearly one of those ones that have invested and showed a lot of confidence in Pittsburgh. Kendall Packaging has recently opened up a beautiful $9 million expansion to its operations here. Pitt Plastics, Masonite Millers, all have shown a continued commitment and confidence in Pittsburgh. Well, Pittsburgh's also becoming, or it has been for a while, and is increasingly a medical hub. And there's been a lot of investments in medical facilities in Pittsburgh. Mercy, Via Christi, Imani, Community Health Center, all of these have made substantial increased investments and shown confidence in Pittsburgh. Obviously, we're also becoming an entertainment recreation hub. We've got hiking, biking trails. You might recognize that little building over there, the $30 million Bicknell Center. We also have some new tennis courts. I play tennis, by the way, so those matter to me. But those are the nicest tennis courts in the region, by the way. So they're beautiful things. We're also, because of that, we also have a lot of tourism. There's another little building on campus that you might recognize, as well as a couple of different hotels that have opened up. Our tourism industry has gone up 25%, by the way, in the last 2 years. So that's pretty substantial. And the occupancy rates are pretty much stayed the same. So, but there's also so much retail that's happened. I couldn't name all the retail establishments that have happened, but there's been almost $20 million in retail investments. And these dollars that I've talked to you about have really been focused on what we know easily, what we can point to at the city. So there's a lot of investment that's being made. Let's talk a little bit. Oh yeah, there's also a casino over there, $50 million. Didn't want to forget that one. But is it slowed down? No. All right. Obviously, I didn't include Block 22 in any of those numbers. USD 250 just passed a bond issue. It's going to put in $30 million. Silverback Landing, a housing development, 150 new homes, $25 million. South Rouse, we're building right now. Sorry if you can't get convinced by that, but it's going to take another year. So get comfortable with it. The apex stages are going to be. We're going to invest almost $1 million. We have another taxiway that's going to happen at the airport. We're doing the North Walnut to the Tractor Supply Company, also as well as opening up some other commercial areas up there in North Walnut, the North Broadway area. So all of this has happened, and it's continuing to happen. Just the larger investments alone that I've talked about here, over $300 million. That's $300 million over 5 years. That is an investment that any community would be proud of to say, but especially a community of our size. That's a substantial commitment. And it shows a great deal of confidence. Only 7% of that is public funds. Right? The rest of it's private investment. Right? So there's a great deal of attention that's being given to Pittsburgh and a great deal of commitment and confidence that's being shown. And of course, there's a whole bunch that are happening on a much smaller scale across the board. I didn't even talk about Signet, right? And the commitment that they pay, right? Those are smaller ones that are happening all over the place. So what is all this, investment, all that money that's coming to Pittsburgh mean, right? Well, the best way I can show that is by throwing some more numbers at you. Right? GDP growth of 2.4% to 1.5 billion in 2017. Those are real numbers, folks, right? 2% job growth. Now that's compared to 0.5% decline in Kansas and 1.4% nationwide. Right? We've obviously decreased our unemployment, our wages are up, and this middle class growth number here is one of those things that I'm probably most proud of. We've grown our middle class by 11%, and that we didn't bring the top down, we brought the bottom up in middle class. Right? We have a trade pull factor of 1.67. Trade pull factor is to try to explain that really quickly. If all purchases were made only by Pittsburgh citizens, we'd have a trade pull factor of 1. That's how that works, right? So what 1.67 means is that we're pulling two-thirds again as much retail activity into Pittsburgh as our population would indicate. That basically makes us a town of about 35,000. All right. By the way, our sales tax, not surprisingly, has increased by 5% last year. That's a record. Right? To date, our sales tax has increased on top of that 4.5%. All right, so that's an addition to that last year's increase. Right. We've decreased our bankruptcies. Our lodging growth, as I mentioned earlier, is up 25%. And look at this. Our FICO scores, those are our credit ratings for our citizens, are the highest they've ever been. Right? So that's what that means. Right? But there's a whole bunch more coming on, and we can continue talking about this. But I wanted you to see some of the real numbers that make it that show how strong Pittsburgh is becoming. So what does it feel like, right? Well, that certainly puts a lot of hopefulness in my mind. I think it's exciting. There's a lot of exciting things happening here. It's really healthy. I didn't get into the health numbers. Our health numbers are increasing as well. Right? It's healthy economically and physically here. A lot of pride. I'm certainly proud of what's happening here. And it also gives me a lot of anticipation about what can happen in the future. I'll tell you one thing it doesn't show me. It doesn't make me feel like I should have lowered expectations. Now, I've thrown a lot of numbers at you, and by any standards, they're impressive. And few communities of this level are having this level of growth. But I'd like to introduce our Director of Housing and Community Development, Becky Gray, who's going to bring some of those numbers down to earth. She's going to talk about how this progress is improving the lives of the people here. Becky Gray.
Thank you very much, Jay. I am a fan of data, so I was a little bit jealous that Jay got to do the data piece, but I'm also pretty excited that I get to tell some of the stories about some of the things that are happening here in Pittsburgh. I was asked to talk about our community health. And And I don't think that just means our physical bodies. So in terms of health and the health of our community, we can look in terms of housing. How are we being housed? How are we being educated? And then what kind of environment are we living in? And I think we have some pretty great stories to tell. We can start by talking about housing, of course. The Director of Housing is going to be on the top of my list. And I think we've seen a lot of movement that demonstrates that our housing market is entering into a new era. Oops, I skipped a slide. No, I know, I'll go forward and I'll go back. Here's the first one I was going to go to. What you're looking at right now is the beginning of Pittsburg Highlands. This is a $3.3 million development. It will result in 20 single-family homes. They're going to be held rent affordable. And at the end of a 15-year period, they'll be sold at market rate, offering a pretty steep discount to the tenants who are currently involved in renting them. So it's really a home ownership opportunity for our working citizens, for our entry-level positions, for our teachers, for our support workers. In addition to that, Jay mentioned Silverback Landing. They just submitted a plat for 150 different parcels. These are going to be on a higher-end housing market, and we'll see that one coming to fruition. I think they're going to start pushing dirt in August, should all go well. And in addition to that, we're in conversations with at least 4 other large-scale developers, covering all aspects and all price points, whether it's infill housing or greenfield development, lower price point ranges up into the higher price point. So you're going to see a lot more movement going on in housing. It's a very exciting time to be here. Now I'm going to go backwards too. We have also demolished a lot of houses. So that opens up an entire different market, right? There's rooms for the small scale builders in our community as well. Rather than just giant greenfield developers, we have space for builders to build 1 house, 2 houses, 5 houses at a time. Last year in 2017, our building services demolished over 90 houses, or facilitated the demolition of over 90 structures. 12 of them had city funds involved. The rest were all borne on the obligation of the property owner, as it should be. But what this does is it opens up opportunity for us to revitalize many portions of our community that desperately need it. So it's going to be exciting to continue to watch this progress happen in terms of old and unsafe structures coming down, and then new structures moving back to fruition. And then, let's see, we've talked a lot about downtown tonight, so I don't know how much more I really want to say about downtown, other than we have a lot of examples on how we can turn blight into beauty. We have, and I'm quoting the director of Smart Growth America, who when he visited here 3 years ago now, said that our community has the most impressive collection of turn-of-the-century brick buildings he's ever visited. It's important to maintain those buildings. And you'll see some opportunities in the future for private investment along with our city investment to make sure that the structural integrity of those buildings is going to last. Unfortunately, it's going to be too late for some. You may have noticed 5th Street's closed over here. That building cannot be saved. So what we're trying to do is to encourage property owners who do have these structures and investors who are interested to collaborate, work together, and make sure that we that vacant and blighted structures are no longer the norm. We're raising the expectations. The evolution of our education is also underway. It's pretty interesting to see construction at every single building in the USD district right now. Pretty impressive. We've already mentioned the Jobs for America's graduate group that's in our school, but we also have communities in schools, who I see represented here as well. Entities like this, partnering with our district, are impacting students' lives in ways that they've never impacted them before. They're working within the school to link students and their families with resources to navigate the maze of social services and advocacy efforts that are there for them they might not know about, and to make sure those students understand, sorry, there's my slide for community and schools, make sure those students understand they have a place in our community not only now, but also in the future. An extension of that effort, I think, can be seen by the Business Education Alliance. Did we know we have a Business Education Alliance? This is a very fun private or partnership between the city and the Chamber of Commerce and the USD 250 and other business leaders, where students get to actually work side by side with business owners in our community while they're in school. So they're earning a paycheck and getting school credit for this. The result is that they can see where there's work opportunities for them in the future, whether or not they go to college, and they can also see that the community cares deeply about them, offers them an opportunity to earn an income, as well as develop a future here for themselves in the future. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the Southeast Kansas Career and Technology Education Center. If you have not been out there recently, please visit. They continue to evolve at a very rapid rate, offering certifications and coursework for adult education as well as students in our high school system so that they can get dual credit and graduate with certificates in arenas ranging from welding to carpentry to auto tech, masonry, and more. And these students then, upon graduation, they have immediately marketable skills where oftentimes they enter into a good wage earning. And it helps our businesses who need these skills and haven't had access. As Jay mentioned, we've become a regional hub, really, for healthcare. So in terms of our community's wealth with public health, we can talk a lot about the different facilities that have been expanded, about the reach that Community Health Center Southeast Kansas has and continues to have, not only here in Pittsburgh, but also far going. But then we should also talk about the built environment that creates a healthier public. Pittsburgh Farmers Market, which is now under the care and love of the City of Pittsburgh, is providing healthy fruits and vegetables in a location that was once considered a food desert. That fills a pretty significant need for our community, but in addition to the healthy food that it's bringing to that food desert, it's also creating economic opportunities for these micro farms that are filling a very real need of our businesses that want to serve local food and our community members that want to eat local food. Our park and recreation system is creating more opportunities for healthy outdoor activity at a rate we haven't really seen before. This is a great picture of the Everybody Plays Playground, which is an accessible playground, so people with all mobility have access. It's surrounded by a new sensory garden who, some friends of mine who are in fact visiting from Boston right now, said that they have a hard time accessing this type of activities in a community as large as Boston. I didn't realize how progressive and lucky we were in our community to have that right here in Schlanger Park, which is also home to the Ronald O. Thomas Foundation, Dog Park, which we've already mentioned. And I look forward to letting my dog off leash legally. I think it's important to recognize that a lot of these built environment improvements aren't funded by your tax dollars. Just like the Ronald O. Thomas Foundation, funding a dog park, Live Well Crawford County, the Pritchett Trust, the Community Foundation of Southeast Kansas, Pittsburgh Beautiful, Kansas Crossing Casino, the Yellow Board Foundation, and so many others that are too numerous to mention at this point, contributed over $3 million in this community just last year. So that is how our community health has improved based on the data that Jay has thrown at us. But behind all of those topics that I very briefly touched are other stories. And it's my honor to bring back to the microphone Ms. Sarah Runyon, who is going to talk more about the story of our community.
In the last hour, we've heard numerous reports about where our community is headed, images of progress and positive change. And you've seen a little glimpse of the vision for Pittsburgh's future. One of the challenges that we face as a city and as a community is how to share that vision. And one of a key focus for the city and for our community is how to market Pittsburgh. Now, I don't really like the word marketing for various reasons, but mostly because it reminds me of the word advertising, and I'm a millennial, and we hate being advertised to, so instead I'm going to use the phrase telling our story, because I think it better illustrates the point that I want to make. So what's our city doing to tell our story? Well, here are just a few of the things that we've already done in the last year. We launched a new city website. We created an engaging brand video that highlights the best parts of Pittsburgh, hired a public information manager, redesigned the city's logo and branding materials, launched a new city manager's blog, published news and updates through an integrated marketing strategy, including social media and our website and other platforms. And we've created better procedures to improve the way that we communicate with the citizens we are here to serve. But instead of focusing on simply what we're doing, I want to talk about the why. So why is it important to tell our story? First and foremost, if we don't tell our story, no one else will. And we need to be in charge of controlling the message and the conversation about our city and the people that live here. Secondly, telling our story builds community pride. It involves, it engages the people that live here to stay here and grow this community. Third, telling our story engages others and brings Pittsburgh to the forefront. And it redefines what other people think about our community. I'll give you a quick example. 2 weeks ago, we welcomed a visitor from Topeka, a representative from the League of Kansas Municipalities, to come and write a story about Pittsburgh for her quarterly magazine. We toured the university, the potential sites for our future housing developments, the Mid-City Renaissance Project. Sydney and Selmy and I gave her a tour of Block 22. And before she left, she said to me, "Pittsburgh is not what I expected." This comes from someone whose family grew up in Pittsburgh and went to school in Pittsburgh. It's not what she expected. This was exciting to me, but it also reminded me that we have some work to do. Historically, we haven't been the greatest about tooting our own horn, so to speak, and we need to make it better. Because what people expect Pittsburgh to be is not who we are. And we need to, I'll say this again, raise those expectations. To borrow a phrase from a very smart woman I know, we need to teach people to expect excellence. Because great things are happening in our community, and if we continue to dream and think and act like a community that's going to grow, we will. As long as we continue to strive for excellence and we tell our story excellently. And lastly, our story is changing. What's true about Pittsburgh 5 or 10 years ago is no longer true today. And that story needs to be heard. Our economy is growing faster than other communities in the state, and people are taking notice. More and more people are traveling here to work and play. We're a regional hub for higher education and healthcare and retail and hospitality and manufacturing and other industries. Existing businesses are expanding and entrepreneurs are looking to this community to build their home. Developers are practically clamoring to get in the door to talk to us about building new housing developments or redeveloping existing neighborhoods. And our charming downtown is starting to attract the eye of businesses and developers that want to be right in the center of the action. Things are changing, and our story needs to change with it. Pittsburgh's story is still being written by each and every one of us. It's being written by journalists and photographers and videographers and marketing professionals and storytellers. And it's being written by you. Every time you take your phone out and you take a photo or you share an update about Pittsburgh, you're part of sharing Pittsburgh's story and moving our community forward. And finally, I'm going to close with this. Pittsburgh has great stories to tell, and no one's going to tell it better than us.
I'm the opener and the closer. Double win for you. So, everybody excited by what they saw, right? Feels good, yes? Yes. Pittsburgh is an exciting place to be right now. So in this day and age, it's somewhat popular to distrust the government, that the government is seen as some separate, overbearing entity that at best must be tolerated and at worst should be treated like a malignant tumor. But my hope is that we can change that story. Speaking of changing stories and telling stories. I hope that you will come away from today seeing local government as but one part of your community, made up of people, just like all of you in this room, who work every single day to make this a better place to be. So, I want to start with what I think is the best example of citizen engagement with local government, and that is citizen advisory boards. These boards are made up of members of the community who are volunteers. They are generally not specialists, but they care very deeply about the things that they advise the city on, ranging from parks and the arts to downtown, city codes enforcement, active transportation, and the airport. They often go unseen in the public eye, but they are one of the most vital components of a healthy democracy because they are the true grassroots, the average citizens providing input into their community. I'll let you in on a little secret. As a commissioner, I do not write policy. Okay? Let me say that again. I do not, as a commissioner, write policy. Certainly, I approve and direct policy along with my fellow commissioners, but most of the time, proposals that we vote on originate with citizen boards that examine and vet policies and then send them to the commission for approval. I know this because that's where I got my start in city government, with the Active Transportation Advisory Board when it was created 4 years ago. That is the core work of local government and community development, and it is done by people who are not even getting paid to do it. So please, will all of the members of Pittsburgh citizen boards, along with their subcommittee members, as Leah pointed out to me the other day, are not necessarily on the committee but are involved in the work of those committees, please stand to be recognized. We're just getting started here. All right. So if you're on the citizen advisory boards, please stay standing. All right. So I want then also to recognize my 4 fellow commissioners. So Sarah, you're going to need to stand up. So these individuals, along with myself, oversee not just the decisions being made in the community, but also its overall vision. We are the ones who make sure that actions and policies undertaken by the city hold true to this vision. It's gatekeepers, if you will. So if you're also then, if you have previously served on the Pittsburgh City Commission, I'll ask that you also please stand. Next, I want to recognize city employees. These are the people that carry out the vision of Pittsburgh on a day-to-day basis. They're doing the grunt work of making the place function smoothly. So, when your water works and your street gets a makeover and you enjoy a park, and your house doesn't collapse on top of you because it's up to code, and fires get put out, and you're kept safe, and that dilapidated shack that has been sitting empty for as long as you've lived next door, and it's finally getting torn down, thank you, Becky, it means that the people of the city are doing their work. So please, city staff, please stand. Now, community volunteers. These are the people who may not work directly with the city, but are doing the work to help improve the life of the community. This is anyone who sits on the board of a local organization, who volunteers or does community service, who spends their time helping out in some way. And there are way more of these organizations than I can reasonably list. So please, if you volunteer with any local organization of any kind, I would ask that you also please stand. Please stay standing. I'm working up to something here. I've got an affected mind here. So, business owners and employees, you are not getting overlooked here. If you work in Pittsburgh, you are contributing to the life of the community. If you do anything that creates value in Pittsburgh, whether it is a major company or one that you run from your home, a part-time job, or something you have done full-time for decades, please stand. And finally, citizens, if you live and spend your time here, just by your presence, you are contributing to the life of this community. Going about your everyday business, whether that's going to school, shopping, attending events, or even just spending time out in the community, that helps shape Pittsburgh. So please stand. Thank you all for humoring me. You may sit down, but if you look around, you'll notice that this is everybody in the room. So the purpose of this ridiculous exercise is making you stand on your feet, which, as Sarah pointed out previously when we were running through the run-through, that I should not wait until the very end because it would be awkwardly long and everyone would be mad at me, so I'm letting you sit now. So thanks Sarah later for not having to stand for the rest of the thing. But the point of me going through all of this is to recognize that all of us in this room make up the various parts of a community. Every single person in this room is vital to seeing Pittsburgh live up to our collective vision of it in the very work that we do. We all have parts to play. Now, some of you may feel like there is more that you can do, or you've seen an opportunity to get more involved with making that happen here today. That's good. I want you to act on that feeling. You need to figure out what you can do to help make Pittsburgh better. So, you can get on the city website and look around and find out what you are most interested in and engage with it somehow. You can open up the brochures that are on your table and look for opportunities to engage with boards there as well. Look to see when the boards meet and then attend a meeting. They are open to the public, just as are the city commission meetings. And you don't have to be a member to attend and see what's going on. Just go and see how things work and see the issues that are being discussed. Check out any of the many local volunteer groups engaged with issues, then attend a meeting, maybe become a member or join the board. Find out what you can do to help. Or maybe, if you're not finding exactly what you are most passionate about and interested in, you should work on getting something set up, creating a new organization or helping form a new board. So for example, Pittsburgh does not have a sustainability advisory board, and it is 2018. So, if sustainability is a big deal to you, as it is to me, maybe you can do something about that and leave here today and get started on that. Because, as I want to leave you with, these things do not happen automatically. All of us here have work to do in making these things take place. Everything good that happens here in this community is the result of effort and dedication and intention. Those good things happen because people have worked to make them happen. So please, go find what you're passionate about in this community and let's move Pittsburgh forward into the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful afternoon.